Yes, there would be no real expectation that the markets would be anything other than wild and crazy right now as we enter into the beginning of earnings, significant reports from the Ag 7 and others over the next 10, 11 days. So not only that, of course, we have maybe the war expanding, getting a little more intense, and as opposed to winding itself up. Now, I happen to believe that it will be wound up by the end of July, no matter what, and that's just me, but we'll see what happens on that one. All right, but what I want to start off with right now is that Starship 13 is set to launch at 5:45 Mountain Daylight Time today. But many in the press are putting this as Thursday. That is incorrect. I've gone to the SpaceX site itself, and it says it's today at 5:45 Mountain. All right, so that settles that. SpaceX, in my opinion, will not be able to get moving until after a successful flight of Starship. There's too much risk. I could be stating the obvious right here, but delays or aborts are better than some other kinds of failures. Boarding after flaming up was pretty hair-raising on Thursday, so probably it was also hair-raising for a lot of other investors, which is probably why we're sitting at 125. So, but once we have that successful flight, I would not be shocked at all to see SpaceX back to 135, 140, maybe even 150. Then as we progress a little bit further, if that government contract gets finalized for more rental of compute, that could cause another bump. If we get more clarity on the next million chips that are going to be purchased, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on about that today. I think we might get into it later. No, maybe not. Anyway, there's confusion. Elon saying no such deal. Other people reporting on a very large deal. And Brian Wang sending me a note that says, well, it's partially right and partially wrong. Anyway, investing.com, though, on Tesla, investing.com kind of wraps things up for Tesla this week, saying Tesla shares slipped 1.8%. I think it's still about that right now. In morning trading today, pulling back to 374.04. As the market enters in the final two trading days before the company reports its second quarter 2026 financial results, which will be after the bell on Wednesday. You probably know that. Investors are unwilling to add risk right now, is what they're saying, according to investing.com, on what is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched earnings prints of the season. Wow, look at that. The core anxiety centers on profit margins, they feel. While Tesla delivered a record 480,000 vehicles, roughly 74 more than Wall Street had expected, but not what I expected, analysts remain sharply divided on whether that volume came at too steep a cost. Deutsche Bank's Edison Yu projects adjusted EPS at just 36 cents. That's well below the 54-cent consensus, or my 58-cent. Citing aggressive financial incentives and higher input costs, including lithium and copper, that would have had higher input costs. That would, of course, if there's higher input costs, that would reduce margins. Now, what they're not taking into consideration is higher income from from FSD uptakes, and that could be very, very large. They're not considering larger margins also from Tesla constantly reducing the cost of goods. Anyway, separately, a Trefis analyst published today flagged Tesla's capital expenditure guidance at over $25 billion for 2026 and near tripling from the prior year's roughly $9 billion as a significant near-term financial burden that investors are struggling to underwrite ahead of the print. Now, Brian White, and I did a thing about that earlier today. That will be on tomorrow morning. We went into great detail about whether this CapEx spend is just way too much. I bet you can guess what we have in mind. Analysts' positioning heading into earnings is tilted cautious. Morgan Stanley maintained an equal weight rating with a modestly raised target to 417, emphasizing that robotaxi and Optimus remain the primary long-term drivers. but are unlikely to trigger a decisive re-rating in the near term. Well, what's the near term? If the near term is 5 months, meaning by the end of the year, yeah, I think we'll have a re-rating by the end of the year, whether that's only 500 or 1,000 cars that are, robotaxis that are out there working, or whether it's 5,000 or 10,000, I think we'll have a re-rating. If we have Optimus with a reveal and some pricing and some evidence that their production lines are running, I think that could cause a re-rating. So let's not get too negative here, Morgan Stanley. Wells Fargo kept its underweight rating, which has been forever, and they have a 130 price target. They're warning that one-time items and pricing pressure likely offset volume tailwinds on the margin line. So there are some one-time situations that aren't repeating. Some like tariff relief from the first quarter. That there'll still be some tariff relief this quarter. There was, or there may not be. We're not really sure on that one. And then there was also some one-time items related to the anyway, with regard to warranty, they were taking too much money for warranties, and over the years they've realized that. Larry Goldberg's been reporting on that on this channel for almost 3 years, and so they finally took some of that. And then you could also have some FSD uptake from the company, meaning they could say, "Oh, we're 89% complete compared to 80 or whatever," and that could be positive increases. You've got a huge increase that nobody's talking about. That'll be 35 cents for the SpaceX shares that Tesla owns, because they have to market that. But you'll also have about a 1 cent reduction, about a 10 cent reduction from that 35 cents, which will be the shares of the Bitcoin that have gone down. Bank of America, which raised its multi-year revenue estimates, flagged that free cash flow is expected to swing from a positive $6.2 billion to a negative $10 billion in 2026. Meanwhile, the options market is pricing a by the way, I think that's probably about right. Meanwhile, the options market is pricing in a 7.6% move in either direction around the earnings event. So you could be going up 7.6 or down 7.6 from where we are right now. The broader market offered Tesla no cover today, with the NASDAQ gaining while the Dow went lower. And we'll talk about that in detail in a second, leaving Tesla as a clear underperformer today. Taken together, today's decline reflects a classic pre-earnings de-risking dynamic. Record deliveries are already well known to the market, and investors are now focused entirely on the harder questions: automotive gross margins, the pace of robotaxi scaling, cybercab production timelines, cybercab release and deployment timelines, and whether a 25 billion plus capex cycle can be justified by near-term revenue. Until Wednesday's call provides answers, the path of least resistance for the stock appears to be lower. So that, of course, sets us up for a nice beat, depending on the call, which always has a big impact. Sawyer Merritt, I think this is the first time that we've seen Tesla directly confirm that Starlink will be integrated in the cybercab. I know Lars had previously talked about it for use in more rural areas, but interestingly, to see it, it looks like a new infographics directly in the Tesla showroom, suggesting it's going to be on all of them. All right, we had Gavin Baker on CNBC, I think yesterday, might have even been the day before, but anyway, he was talking about the SpaceX post-IPO drawdown, and he was on Squawk on the Street. He said this: the drawdown is normal and unremarkable for a massive IPO. Baker views the $1 trillion market cap drop from the peak as typical of IPOs. He's not concerned or focused on short-term price action, emphasizing his long-term target perspective as an early investor. He goes all the way back to 2015 when he was at Fidelity. He says the IPO volatility will, in lockup expirations, the initial supply dynamics, there's going to be so many things that are going to be impacting the stock over the next few months. He says public markets can and should tolerate heavy capital investment cycles, especially for a company that it's in this in the markets that that SpaceX are in. Baker draws parallels to early Amazon, AWS build-out, and Tesla, where markets were patient with heavy spending for a long-term ROI. SpaceX's data center AI compute business shows strong economics, high IRRs. SpaceX's data center, I'm sorry, I repeat, and public investors are generally supportive when the returns are clear, which they are right now. SpaceX's long-term potential remains enormous. Set it and forget it, says Baker, as a generational compounder with multiple engines. Yeah, engines. Starlink launch, AI compute, model capabilities, chips, manufacturing chips in the future, the terafab. He has high conviction in his vision, calling it potentially one of the most important companies ever. How about tied with Tesla? And treats it as a core long-term holding rather than trading around volatility. This is Randy Kirk, and listen, you just have to sign up for one of Nick Gibbs' courses on options. Let's say that you never decide to trade options the way he does. Let's say that you trade options now, you trade them a little bit here and there, you know, some leaps here and there, maybe you sell some calls or buy some puts or whatever, or maybe the opposite. You're fooling around with options. He's going to teach you everything that he knows after over 10 years of being actively involved, employed to do so, and now people paying him to give his methods as well as his tutorial. So for this very small price, if you look it up, you're going to find how small it is. You can get this quick crash course, everything about options. You plan to spend 9 or 10, maybe even 12 hours with this course, but by the end of the day, you will know so much. It will be totally worth the price. I think I can say that as investment advice. Coca-Cola delivered, oh, by the way, the information, of course, is in the comments below. Make sure that you always use my link. Coca-Cola has delivered resilient results amid uneven consumer pressures by leaning on pricing, affordability levers, portfolio breadth, and execution. Shares have performed well year to date, up 20%. So they're looking pretty good, Coca-Cola, and they're saying that, yeah, you know, we continue to have a K-shaped economy, if you like, with most of the folks out there able to easily afford the price increases, and some still struggling to do so after the Biden craziness. The Conference Board of Leading Economic Index, the LEI for the U.S. declined by 0.2% in June, following a 0.1% increase in May. But the LEI is down by only 0.3% over the first half of 2026, a much smaller rate of decline than the 1.1% contraction over the second half of 2025, which was booming. So this is why maybe I don't understand what the Conference Board is saying. But so they're going to try to tell me, here's what they say they're saying. In June, the leading economic index for the U.S. declined and partially reversed against registered in May and April, which were both up. This is according to 𝐑𝐚𝐧𝐝𝐻𝐿𝐲, Senior Manager, Business Cycle. At the conference board, while some components of the LEI were little changed, the largest positive contribution from the yield spread came from the yield spread, followed by marginal positive input from the remaining financial components, but they weren't enough to offset weak consumer expectations and a drop in building permits across most of the categories. Watch those drops in building permits. That is an issue. Despite the recent decline, the LEI's 6 and 12-month growth rates, while negative, were stable. Consumer spending is weakening but strong. Business investment related to AI is expected to support economic activity while inflation continues to improve. The Conference Board raised its forecast from 1.8 to 1.9 for year-over-year GDP growth for the entire year of 2026. All right, so the markets, as I mentioned, are all over the place. So let's go ahead and take a look at the details. So we've got Tesla still down at 2.36%. That's about the most it's been down for the day at 371.86. SpaceX also down, but not nearly as much as it was earlier, sitting down 1.65 at 121.95. You've got S&P S&P is down just 0.03, call that pretty close to unchanged. Same for NASDAQ, up 0.23, but virtually unchanged. And the Dow Jones down 0.55. It is down, it's actually showing enough of a change to pay attention to. You got the Mag 7 completely, well, all right, you got Tesla and Apple down. You've got the rest of them up, but up. One's going up this way, another's going down that way. I mean, they're all over the place. The VIX is at 17.88, which is starting to get up there into the middle range of the neutral range. And RK was up 0.49, even with Tesla and SpaceX down. How about that? All right. I think they've got another stock that's doing crazy well right now. I should know more about that, shouldn't I? Because I do have a holding in RK. All right, we've got the bonds going absolutely straight up, the yields rather. The bonds going down as the yields go up 5.7 basis points, almost touching on 4.6 again, 4.598, close enough to 4.6 to call it that. We have got oil up a little bit again. It was down yesterday, now back up. 83.45 is where Texas Intermediate is sitting now, and Brent staying under 90 at 89.45. Natural gas down 1.75 to 2.86. Gold down 9.6, hanging in there just above 4,000 today after being under 4,000 yesterday. You've got silver up 0.9 at 56.84, copper up 1.32 to 635. A couple of headlines today saying copper might be a good buy. Remember what I told you the other day. There's that formula with regard to aluminum, and if it's never going to go outside that formula unless things go well. If the aluminum cannot be substituted for the copper, if the copper shortages get so huge, and there's some of the situations, aluminum can't be easily put in place of the copper. Well, yeah, at some point copper will go crazy, but at least for now, it's staying in that same range. The dollar gains a little bit, which it typically does as the Iran war goes crazier and crazier. And you've got Bitcoin up 9.15. It was up more earlier. It's sitting at 65,294. It's pretty much in the high area of where it's been recently. Ethereum is at 1,901. That's down, up 2.26. And that is it. Those are all the elements of the market that we talk about every day. What are you going to have? We're going to have Larry Goldberg later today. You're going to have Brian White in the morning. You're going to have Randy and Brian over at the Tesla Diner in West LA, actually in West Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard tomorrow night. I'm going to try to get there around 5 o'clock. I think most of the festivities are not until later. Brian and I are supposed to give words. We're supposed to provide you who are there at tomorrow night with some words of levity, education and wisdom. Anyway, we're supposed to talk at, I think, 8 o'clock. And then there's going to be a light show. So if you like the light shows and you want to participate in the light show, come on over to the diner on Tuesday night, okay? And then earlier today, we had, Kent Marsh with his video this morning. A lot of you have already watched it. It is ton of stuff about Optimus. Very, as usual, fantastic slides, great information. If you haven't watched that one yet, I'll put the card right up there. I think that me and my friend, the lizard here, are done for now. So see you tomorrow night, or see you the next time a little while from now. And it has been great talking to you.